Same
Yes, sure.
Okay. So this is the design problem that we saw yesterday. The first few steps are exactly same. So I'm just going to run through the slides. So given data, you write down all the given data as we did yesterday. What was the width, depth, width of support, the span, live load, dead load, point load, exposure condition, and the grade of concrete and steel, and so on and so forth. And that is pictorially represented here. What is the brick wall width and what is the distance between the brick walls, and what are the loads that are acting on this one. So everything is represented pictorial manner, right? Actually, we found out we are trying to factor because sometimes they may give you factored bending moment directly. Then the first, all this step will not be, second step will not be required. If they given you directly the bending moment in the beam is so and so kilonewton meter, including the self weight, then you don't have to do all these things. Otherwise, you have to find out all this. Like for example, here UDL was given, live load, UDL live load UDL is given, dead load UDL is given. So you are finding out the self weight of the beam for the given overall cross section of the beam. So you got total UDL intensity as 17.5 kilonewton per meter. It is only due to service load. So remember, in limit state method, we always design for the factored moment, not for the service moment or design. We for the design moment or ultimate moment. Factored UDL is you multiply by 1.5. This total value. Similarly, you have factored point load, you multiply by 1.5, you got this value. Now, because moderate exposure condition is given, all those things you are doing it. So, we finally, because to find out bending moment, you need effective span. So, effective span also found here. Finally, effective span is 6 meters, and these are the total loads. Now, you know the loading on the beam and the effective span. To draw them in a graphical manner, this is the effective span 6 meters. Total factored UDL is 26.25 kilonewton per meter, and the midpoint load is 45 kilonewton. That is again factored point load. So maximum bending moment will be at the center. Suppose if the load is somewhere off centered, so accordingly you have to find out the maximum bending moment. Okay, you have to find out the maximum. Suppose if this load is not at the center, it is somewhere else, then you have to find out maximum bending moment where it occurs. At that place, you have to design. You have to design for the maximum bending moment always. Since it is a central load and also UDL, the maximum bending moment will be at the center only. So that you have to find out. For example, let us say the 45 kilonewton is applied here somewhere 2 meter or 1 meter here. Then you have to find out, you draw the shear force diagram. Wherever shear forces changes its sign from positive to negative, that is a place where your bending moment will be maximum. So you have to find out bending maximum bending moment, right? So that is, so this is a factored bending moment. Now, to find the type of section to be designed, you find out the ME limit for Fe415, that is 0.138 FCK BD square. So that is coming out to 106.867 into 10 power 6 Newton millimeter. Since the moment due to factored moment due to externally applied load is 185 something, ME limit is only 106, so it is almost 79 kilonewton meters more than ME limit. So ME is more than ME limit, so you should design the beam is doubly reinforced beam. Suppose if ME comes out to be less than ME limit, you will design only as a singly reinforced beam, which we have already done. Okay, singly reinforced beam you have done already, so you go back and refer. Suppose MU is coming out to be less than ME limit, you will design the beam as a singly reinforced beam, right? Now, XE limit is because it is Fe415 0.48D, it is coming out to be 168.96. Now, design a reinforcement. Now, please pay careful attention. I am doing it in a different way than what I did yesterday. First, I am going to do the tensile steel, AST, total AST, tensile steel. Remember, in our, I will show here in whiteboard. So remember, this total MU can be segregated into ME limit and delta MU. The ME limit will be resisted by this T1 and then CC. These both together will form a couple, and this internally resisting couple will resist this MU limit. Okay. Now this delta MU will be resisted by this T2 and CS, this compressive force here, and the tensile force T2 here. This will resist. So this is a T2 here, and this is a CS here. These two forces will resist this delta MU. So you can write delta MU as like this. Delta MU is equal to 0.87 FY AST. If you take moment about this line, this compression line, it will be 0.87 FY AST into D minus D dash. You can also take other way around. If you take a moment about this tensile steel T2, this will be FSC into ASC into D minus D dash. That's what. So either you can use this or you can use this. Yesterday we have used this one. Today we are going to use this one. Okay. So you know total AST is equal to AST limit plus AST2. Now first you find out AST limit. This is the same as what we did yesterday. AST limit, or in some book they say AST1. AST1, AST limit, both are one and the same. So you know PT limit is equal to 41.38 FCK by FY XC limit by D, and 1.197% it is coming. So from that you find out AST limit. We will find out like this. Remember, you can also find out AST limit another way also. That is, you can also find out AST in another way. This way, MU limit is equal to 0.87 FY AST limit into D minus 0.42 XU limit. This way also you can, you know XU limit you can find, you know already, you know D already, you know MU limit, you know FY, only will be left is AST limit. This way also you can find out AST limit. AST limit you can find this way also. Okay. So you will get same value 1053.36. So AST limit found out, or AST1 is found out. Next, AST2, to find out AST2, you know delta M is equal to 0.87 FY AST2 into D minus D dash. Remember, for AST2 or ASC, this is D minus D dash. Don't write D minus 0.42 XU, okay, because lever arm is D minus D dash only. Compression steel are placed at a effective cover of D dash, okay. So 0.87 FY AST2 into D minus D dash. The only unknown is AST2 because delta MU you know. So AST2 you can write like this. AST2 is equal to delta MU divided by 0.1 FY into D minus D dash. If you substitute this all these things, you will get AST2 as 718 millimeters square. Okay. Now AST1 is this much. AST2 is this much. You add both, you will get 1772 millimeters square, which is same as yesterday, what we had the value of yesterday as well. Okay, so for 1772, I provided two number of 32 mm plus one number of 20 mm diameter bars. It is coming out to be 1988, right? So instead, you can also provide. I will use, if I use this 25 rods, providing number of 25 mm dia bars required is equal to total AST required divided by AST of one rod, that is 491. AST required was 1772 divided by 491. This you will get 3 point, yesterday you told me I think 3.68 or something like that. So you can verify. So you have to provide 4 number of rods. So 4 into 491 will be 1964 millimeters square. Okay, that is even lesser than this value. So you can go with 4 number of 25 mm diameter also. Remember, that is why I told you design does not have a single unique answer. You can have any design any way you want, but only thing is that this AST provided should be more than the AST required that you found out in the previous step. Okay, so this is what AST. Now similarly, you have compression steel AS is equal to, again you will use the same formula from G 1.2 of IS square base, page number 96. You have this formula 0.87 Fy AST2 is equal to FSC into ASC, right? From this one. For this body, this steel to be the equilibrium, this 0.87 Fy into AST2 should be equal to FSC into ASC. Compressive force, tensile force. This should be equal. So from that only this equation has come. Okay. Now you know Fy, you know AST2, you know, but you do not know FSC, ASC, you do not know. That you have to determine. How to determine? So ASC is equal to 0.87 Fy AST2 divided by FSC. Now you have to find out FSC. As I told you, you can take from the graph. So you got to strain as you have one graph. You can also find out FSC using this d dash by d. It is given in SP16, table 15. It is in SP16. If you see here, if you read this stress in compression reinforcement FSC in Newton per millimeter square in doubly reinforced beam with cold work bar. Cold work bar means Fe415, Fe500, etc. First find out d dash by d. What is d dash by d? D dash is yesterday we found out to be 38 also, right? What is the value of d dash we found out? You remember? Yesterday, I think for moderate exposure that was given as clear cover was given as 30 mm, and 10 mm was we have taken as half of the main steel, and 48 was the d dash value. If you go back and refer, d dash was 48 mm, and d was 352 millimeter because total was 400 mm total depth given. So find out d dash by d. One of you work it out and tell me. 48 divided by 352.
Point 136.
36. Okay. Now if you see here in this one, you have for d dash by d for 0.1 for Fe415 353, for 0.15 it is 342. As the value is increasing, your FSC value is decreasing. So for d dash by d 0.1, this is the FSC value is 353 Newton per millimeter square. For d dash by d 0.15, FSC is 342 millimeter. You need the value of 0.136. It is in between these two values. It should be less than 353, more than 342. So you do the linear interpolation. How will you do the linear interpolation? So I will see from when you go from 0.1 to 0.15, it is in decreasing order. So 353 minus. So difference between 353 and 342, how much? 11, right? And this is, you can take this as a whole number. Instead of 0.1, you can take 10. Instead of 15, 0.15, you can take 15. Instead of 0.136, you can take 13.6. Your calculation will be very fast. So 15 minus 10 will be 5. 13.6 minus 10 will be 3.6. So find out this value. 11 divided by 5 into 3.6 minus value 353.
$345.08.
So 345 Newton per millimeter square, right? What we have taken yesterday? Yesterday also we have taken 345 only from the. No, yesterday we have taken 345 only. Okay. So So this is how you interpolate and you get to the value of FSC. So if you substitute, this is from yesterday value, yesterday graph. So I told you FSC you can find out from D dash by D also. That is also coming out to be 345. So if you use this one, you are getting ASS 752 millimeter square, and provide two number of 22 because this is 760. Remaining stuff will all everything same. This are all remaining same. AAC provided 760. So this is yesterday's graph, like 0.0025 got, and this is the center 345. Okay, this is 345. 0.0 because your strain is 0.0025 here from this. So if you draw a line 0.0025, it is cutting at this point, and that same is this is 340, this is 350, exactly middle it is 345. So from the graph it will be a little bit approximate, but it's fine. Okay. So after that everything remains same. Okay. AST minimum check is not required. AST maximum check is required. So these are all fine. After that you will be doing the check for ductility, right? PC provided it should be more than PC limit for it to be in under reinforced section. So that and all I have discussed yesterday. Other thing I'll say, okay. Suppose if the bending moment directly given to you, span is not given, you don't have to do this check for deflection. So this is required only if span is given. Then only you will perform this control of deflection check, otherwise you cannot do it. Okay. So all this thing you will be doing it as we discussed. These are all same as what we discussed. Okay. So that is about design of. Finally, you should end with the reinforcement detailing. Okay. In some book they will not give out all these stirrups. Directly draw. This is this one. This is AST 2 number of 2032 plus 1 number of 22, and this is 3 number of 22, like that they will direct it, and of course width will be there and depth will be there. Okay. So these are all. This is about the design of doubly reinforced beam that we discussed yesterday. So any question, any doubt, anybody having any doubt? So if not, we will go with the design of reinforced concrete structure, Unit 2, and today's lecture 16, analysis of T-beams. This you can see here. One second. Okay, so far what you discussed was rectangular beams. Now, where do you practically find rectangular beams? These are the example. Following is the examples of rectangular beam. For example, it is a water tank, right? Oops. You see this intermediate frame here. These are all beams. These beams are rectangular beams. These are all rectangular. This is not rectangular beam because this is along the slab. This is a rectangular beam. Okay. Now you see here. These are all lintels. These are all rectangular beam. We see rectangular or square, whatever it may. In general, we see it as a rectangular beam. When we say rectangular or T-beam, it is only about with respect to cross section of the beam. So now the cross section you see it is a rectangle or square, whatever. Similarly, this beam and this beam, all these are rectangle only. This you can see, this is also rectangular beam, and this rectangular roof beam, which is done with the brick. Roof is done with the brick, but the beam is our concrete beam, which is a rectangular beam. Again, this is also rectangular beam. because this slab material is completely different. So this is beam of rectangular section. Now, where do you see a flanged beam? Practically any reinforced means frame structure, you will see only a flanged beam only, mostly. For example, here, this is a site where a form work is in progress. These are all form work for the slab, floor slab or roof slab, right? And these are the beams placed here. Beam reinforcements are placed. Reinforcement for the beam is placed here. After that, they will place the slab reinforcement. Then they pour the concrete. Okay. Now, what is this T-beam or flanged beams? I want to show some video before getting on to this one. Let us say, see here, are you able to see the video? Are you able to see the video?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are the okay. Okay, here. This is beam, okay? This is the beam. This is the top reinforcement. And this has some depth. At the bottom there is rain. These are all called stirrups. These is stirrups, okay? These are all stirrups or links. Now this shuttering is done for providing the slab reinforcement. This is already slab reinforcement. Things are marked, okay? Slab reinforcements, for slab reinforcement, the things were marked. So you can see these are all marking. This is the end beam. This is the edge, but this is the intermediate beam, because slab is there in this side also, slab is there in the other side also. But this is the end beam. On to the left of the end beam there is no slab. Only on the right side you have a slab. The slab is going to be coming. Okay. So this is slab reinforcement they are installing now. Right? They are marking it. This already slab reinforcement is marked here, already provided. So this is the slab reinforcement. These are the beam reinforcement. Here, this is beam, and this edge you can see the beam. This is the column. Okay, this is a column reinforcement. Here again it is a beam. This is the end. Okay, this is the edge. This is the boundary. So this is the end beam. Immediate beam. On right slab here. Left side of the beam there is slab here. So this is beam. These are all slab. Okay, these are all slab. So you can see the one beam is going this way, another beam is going this way, right? So anyway, this is the top. This is the top reinforcement. This is the bottom reinforcement, right? This is stirrups, and how it is tied you can see, right? So next, I'll see here. Here you can see these are all slab reinforcement. Okay, these are all slab reinforcement, and here you can see one. These are all beam reinforcement. These are all beams. Okay. These are all column reinforcements. Now here I will show you something here. Okay. You see here when there is a stone here, right? There is a stone here also, this side also. Maybe if they go further, you see properly. This is called cover block, side cover block. If it is 20 mm side cover, you will have a 20 mm cover block that is put on either side. Here also, here also. And you will see at the bottom also there will be a cover block. At the bottom, clear cover to give a bottom for the beam. This is side cover. 1 second. Okay, this is the bottom. You can see here, right here. This is the bottom. At the bottom, there is a cover block. Okay, these are all cover block. For a required cover, if it is 20 mm, this cover block will have a thickness of 20 mm. And on top of cover block, you have stirrups. On top of stirrups, you have a main reinforcement. Okay. So now this is how you have the. This is the beam. This beam reinforcement, slab reinforcement, everything is there. Now, how will you? How do you do the construction of slab? See here. This is a beam. Okay, 1 second. See, this is a beam. This is the end beam. These are slab. Now, how they are? It is not that they are casting beam separately and the slab separately. Everything is casted together, right? Everything is casted together. And this is the beam here. There is an end beam here at the end, and this is the intermediate beam. So your slab and beam is always casted monolithically. At the same time, it is casted. So that is called, this beam will be called flanged beam. Why it is flanged beam? I will explain now. Now you should know the process how the beam and the slab, like now you see the concrete is moving towards the beam here. This will get, the beam will get filled first, and then slab will be covered. Okay. So this is how you lay a slab for the floor or roof, right? For the entire thing you do at once. Now, for example, let us say this is a plan of a room, okay, wherein you have one beam is here, another beam is here, another beam is here, and another beam is here, another beam is here. These are all columns. These are all columns where beams are resting. Okay. Now you will lay a slab on top of this. Now, if you take a cross section here, right? If you take a cross section here, you already studied BPCD, right? Building planning and drawing. So if you cut this one and view the slab and beam, it will look like this, right? This beam is this one, this beam. This beam is this middle one. This is this end one. Now when you cut this one, obviously slab will be there on the top. Okay. So this is the cross section of the AA. Now you see, this is the end beam. This is also end beam. This is one end beam. This is another end beam. So I cut the cross section like this. So this end beam has a slab only on the right side. It doesn't have slab on the left side. This end beam, this one, this end beam has slab only on the left side, but not on the right side. But this intermediate beam has a slab on this side also. It has a slab on this side also, right? So now this is a section at AA. Now if you look at this one, so this entire slab, this will be designed as a L beam because this is the rectangle part. But because these things are together casted, this slab also will contribute to some of the compressive force. Okay, not only this rectangular beam will take the compressive force, but some portion of slab also will be effective in taking the compressive forces. So the end beam will be like this. Similarly, for this beam, some portion of slab on the left side, some portion of the slab on the right side will also take the compressive force. Not only this rectangular portion, but also this slab portion also will take some amount of compressive force. So that is why this intermediate beam is called T beam. This is a T beam, and the end beam is called L beam. Okay, actually it is inverted L, but you can say it is L beam. Now this top one is called, this slab portion is called flange, and the bottom, this beam portion is called web or rib. Okay. So is there any doubt in this one? Because if you don't understand this, it will be difficult. And it's not very difficult one. You already studied PPCD. Only you take a cross section in your slab. So when along the beam, so this is the cross section, and if the intermediate beams are there, it will be acting as a T beam. If the end beams are there, it will act as a L beam. Okay, and for end beam, you will always act as L beam. Okay. Similarly, here also L beam will be there. Okay, that I have not shown here. So flanged beam. What do you mean with flanged beam? It is given in IS 456-2000 23.1. I'll just take that section out. Yeah. Section in page number 36 of IS 456, beams are there. In that, T beams and L beams are given. Now what is this T beams and L beams? Okay, here. A slab which is assumed to act as a compression flange of a T-beam or L-beam shall satisfy the following condition. The slab shall be cast integrally with the web, or the web and the slab shall be effectively bonded together in any other manner. So, your web and cast should be and the slab should be cast integrally. Integrally means simultaneously it should be cast. Or if you are providing beam and slab separately, there should be a perfect bond between the web and slab. Then you can consider such a beam as a T-beam or L-beam. Okay. And the second condition, if the main reinforcement of the slab is parallel to the beam, transverse reinforcement shall be provided as shown in figure 3. Such reinforcement shall be not less than 60% of the main reinforcement at midspan of the slab. This we will not worry about it now. We will worry about it when we design slab, because right now you will not understand about slab. But this one should be mainly. Okay. Now, this is T-beam. The definition for T-beam and L-beam is given here, right? So all of you refer to page number 36, 23.1. That is T-beam and L-beam. Okay. Now here, beams in RC buildings are often cast monolithically with concrete slab, where both the beam and the slab act together to resist the external loads. Due to this, some portion of the slab is often considered to act together with the beam. There is extra width of the slab at the top if the beam is inverted. The slab will be at the bottom, is often called flange. So for example here, if the slab is present on the both sides, the beam is called T-beam, this one. If the slab is present on both sides of the beam, like here left side also there, right side also there, slab is there, so it is called T-beam. If the slab is present only on one side, like here, it is only on the right side of the beam it is there, such a beam is called L-beam. Okay, this is called L-beam. Here also, this also, any end beam is designed as a L-beam. Now, this part of the T-beam or L-beam below the slab is called web. This part or this part below the slab, this part is called web or stem or rib of the beam. You should remember this one. Web, stem or rib, that is called this rectangular part. This top part is called flange here. This slab portion is called flange. Okay, so that is flanged beam. That is why it is called flanged beam. It is not only having this rectangular portion, in addition it is having the slab portion also little extra. That is called flanged beam. Okay. Same thing here. Also I have shown here in a 3D view. So this is the slab and this is the beam, and the beam is supported on these columns, right? The floor system with the slab and beams are placed often. This slab and the beams are cast only together. Slab act as a top flange of the beam. This slab act as a top flange of the T-beam or L-beam. Sometimes it is called spandrel beams also. Okay. Now you see here, let us say you have a beam which is running over this support, this one column, this another column. Like that, let us say there are many columns are there and the beams is running over that. This is beam, okay, and the beam is carrying a slab here, right? Now, if you cut this section here, first I have to write, then you will understand. Let us say I have one support here, another support here, another support here, and I have a beam running here. I have a beam running here like this, okay. Sorry, it is not straight, but similar to straight. Okay. Now this one column, this another column, this another. Okay. Now let us say this beam is taking the load, right? Now how will be the deflection profile of this beam? The deflection profile of the beam will be something like this. something like this. At the support you will have a, so now if you see at the midspan of the beam, this is the midspan of the for this this has a two span continuous beam. This is let us say this A, B and C. So between A, B at the midspan, your bending moment is hogging bending moment or sagging bending moment. Any one of you answer. This diagram, this will create a hogging bending moment or sagging bending moment at this place.
Sagging.
Sagging bending moment. That means positive bending moment. What do you mean by sagging bending moment or positive bending moment? Your tension is at the bottom. But at the support point, wherever it was supported, you will have a negative bending moment. Negative bending moment, your tension will be at the top. Here also at the support point, your tension will be at the top. At this support point, your tension will be at the top. Whereas in the midspan region, the tension will be at the bottom. Okay. Now, now here, if you take the beam like this is a neutral axis. See here at this region here and all, your tension is at the bottom here. But when it near the support, your tension is at the top. Okay. Now if you see this figure. Now if you see this is the beam, this beam is carrying this slab in a perpendicular direction. Now this is a section AA and this is a section BB is near the support. Okay. Now section AA here it is. Okay, this is section AA. Now in section AA, this one, let us say this is your neutral axis. This is your neutral axis depth. Okay. So at section AA is a midspan. Okay, at midspan, this AA is at midspan. At midspan, your tension is at the bottom or top? At the midspan. At the midspan of the beam, your tension is bottom. Okay. So tension is top. Bottom means all this concrete in the bottom is removed. Only is all this tensile steel. This is a tension reinforcement. This reinforcement will take care of all the tensile steel. But if you see the compression zone is a rectangular section or a T section. Compression zone here. This is the compression zone. The compression zone is looking like a T shape or a rectangular shape. If the neutral axis is here.
T shape.
T shape. Okay. So this one, this will. So at the midspan, this slab will act as a compression flange, right? So this you have to design. Remember this entire thing above the neutral axis. Let us say this is above. This is a neutral axis. Above the neutral axis, your entire section is concrete is in compression. Okay, we take all the compression side concrete always take into account. So this will act as a T beam. So that's why it's a T-shaped compression zone here. Now suppose that is why if you see in the midspan, your tension, the flexure crack is only forming at the bottom because tension, your crack will form wherever the tension zone is acting, wherever the tension is more. Okay, so that is why your crack is at the bottom. Now if you see here at the support point, here at the support point, this is your section BB, here section BB here. Remember at the support point, this is the tension at the top, compression at the bottom, because this is the negative bending moment or hogging bending moment here. So over the support, now let us say this is your neutral axis. This is the neutral axis. At support, above the neutral axis is the tension or compression? Above the neutral axis. At the support. At the support point. At the support point, above the neutral axis, all the zone is tension. Below the neutral axis, all the zone is compression. Now your tension reinforcement will be provided here in the top. Now if you see the compression zone, this will be designed as a what? Is it which shape? It's a rectangular shape or T shape?
Rectangular.
Yeah.
Rectangle.
So, for whenever you design a beam at a support, wherever it is supported, integrally fixed support, your this slab will be, the slab will have a these are all under tension, so obviously all the thing in tension is neglected. So you will design again as a rectangular beam only, you will not design as a T-beam. Unlike here in the midspan where there is a sagging bending moment is there, you will design the beam as a T-beam. Okay, but whenever you are designing the section for a negative bending moment at support, you will design that section as a rectangular beam, because tension zone is in the top and all the concrete in the tension zone is neglected. So you practically have only this one, like you at the bottom you have a compression concrete and the top only you have a steel, okay, in a support side. So it is be designed as a rectangular beam only. Okay, so this you should remember. Okay, now as I told you, this beam has a slab on the right side. Sorry. This beam has a slab on this left side also, on the right side also. Like I will show it here. Let us say this is your T beam, and this is the one slab this way also there, slab this way also there, right? Now this is the rectangular beam, right? This is the original rectangular beam. These are the slab portions. Now points near the webs are highly stressed than areas away from the web. That means if you draw the stress diagram, the flange, this flange, the slab portion which is near the beam will take very high compressive stress. But as you go away from the beam, when you go away from the beam, this side and this side also, the compressive stress will keep on reducing. Okay, that means the resistance of slab, compressive resistance of slab will go on reducing. The contribution to the compressive stress resistance will go on reducing when you move away from the center of the beam, rectangular beam. This. So this is I will show you here. This red one. This is the variation of compressive stress along this slab. Now, obviously, it will be very difficult to work with this parabolic region. So, what you can do is you can take a rectangular equivalent rectangular distribution. Okay, that rectangular distribution, like if you take this parabolic one, this force will be equal to area of this force. Okay, we have found the average compressive stress for this particular one as this rectangle. Similarly, for this parabolic, say this rectangle. So now the total rectangle variation is this length, and this width is called effective flange width. This width, where the stress is uniform, assumed to be uniform, that is called effective flange width. Okay, so understand this. Like for example, you have slab like this. Let us say you have one beam here, one beam here, one beam here. Naturally, if you take half of this length, half of length, the entire slab will not contribute to compression stress. What they are saying is that this compression stress resistance varies parabolically like this, and after some time it will become zero. Okay, rest of the portion will not contribute to compressive stress. So, but to analyze with parabolic shape or any other shape will be difficult. So you make a uniform distribution, and that width of slab having uniform distribution of this stress here, this uniform distribution. This width of slab is called BF, effective width of flange. Okay, so this is called BF. This rectangular distribution of stress is called BF. Okay, Now I am going to erase that. BF is width that is stressed uniformly to give the same compressive force actually developed in the compression zone of actual width B. Okay, this is the actual width of actual width B. Whatever force is developed due to this parabolic stress or actual stress distribution, the same force will be developed over the length of BF, but the stress will be uniform. Okay, so BF will always be less than B, or maximum it will be equal to B or less than B. So if this is the slab, this is the center line of the, okay. So this is the span S1. From this center to this center is S1. From this center to this center is S2. Okay. So the center line is this one. S2 by 2 is this one. S1 by 2 is this one. That is called this B. Compression zone width. This B. This B is half of this slab width, half of this slab length span. But BF will be always less. Okay. While solving problem, we will understand better. Now, what is effective width of flange? It is given as 23.1.2 again. So for T beams here, effective width of flange. In the absence of more accurate determination, the effective width of flange may be taken as the following. Here it is given in this 37, page number 37. Here, this is page number 37. You can see the effective width of flange can be taken, but in no case greater than the breadth of the web plus the half the sum of the clear distance to the adjacent beams on either side. That we will see now. For T beam, effective width of flange BF is equal to L0 by 6 plus BW plus 6 DF, and for L beam it is BF plus L0 by 12 plus BW 3 DF. Now for isolated beams, the effective flange width shall be obtained as follow, but in no case greater than the actual width. As isolated beam, T beam is equal to BF is equal to L0 divided by L0 by B plus 4 plus BW, and similarly L beam also given, where BS is the effective width of flange, L0 is the distance between the points of zero moments in the beam. For example, if we have a simply supported beam will have a moments at zero moments at the supports. So distance between the supports will become L0, right? So BW is the width of the web or breadth of the web. DF is the thickness of the flange, and B is the actual width of the flange. For continuous beams and frames, L0 may be taken as 0.7 times the effective span. This thing we will see while working out a problem. Okay. Now this is same thing I have written here. Okay. Same thing I have reproduced here. Same for the clarity I have reproduced here. Now you should know what is BF, BW. This is the definition of terms for the T beams or L beam. This is B, small b suffix F. This is a flange width. This is flange, this is web, and this is a thickness of flange. Our thickness of slab is called thickness of flange, capital DF. This is small bw, width of the web. Bw is the width of the web. Now this is AST as usual, and the distance between the topmost compression fiber to the centroid of the tensile steel is called the effective depth. Okay, and this is a neutral axis, let us say. Now this is what same thing. This is BW, AST. This is represented in different form. So these are all the some of the terms and definition in the T beam. Now, for example, this flanged beam is given in your page number 96. In annexure G, G1 was rectangular section, G2 is a flanged section. Okay. Now here also, just like the neutral axis step, moment of resistance, everything, and limiting moment of resistance, in flanged section also there are 5 different cases. How to find out the limiting neutral axis depth, how to find out the moment of resistance, how to find out limiting moment of resistance. Everything, all the formulas there in the code itself. For example, the first case 2.1 is for neutral axis steps less than df. The moment of resistance may be calculated from the equation given in G1.1. Here, this one, moment of resistance, you can calculate from this one and this one, like that they are saying. Look at that, we will see in the next class, how to tomorrow's class. Like if a neutral axis falls within the flange, that means your XU is less than df. Remember, this is your flanged beam. Now what they are saying, the first case, neutral axis falls within the flange. That means your XU is the neutral axis depth, will be less than df. Df is the flange thickness of the flange. When XU is less than df, that means your neutral axis within the flange. That means like this, even this is your neutral axis. So above the neutral axis, these are all compression zone. Below the neutral axis, these are all tensile zone. Now we will always neglect tensile. We will always neglect concrete in the tension zone. You will only have a steel at the bottom. So for this one, now it is same as exactly what you did for rectangular beam. Only thing is, instead of rectangular beam in the compression zone, you have BF. It is not BW, it is a BF that is there. So how will be the stress diagram looks like? Stress, this is a XU. Okay, this XU is the neutral axis depth, and this XU is less than DF. DF means thickness of the flange. Let us say this is 200 mm or 150 mm. XU will be 100 mm or 90 mm or less than 150 mm. Okay. So when the neutral axis is less than the thickness of the flange, then you will know this is the compressive stress diagram. The tensile force will be along this steel. Now this is 0.447 FCK, and this compressive force here is 0.36 FCK XU. Instead of B is in a rectangular beam, it is B. Here, instead of B, you will have a BF, because this is the compression zone. This is your compression zone, where the width of compression zone is BF. So that is the only change. BF it will become. And D is 0.87 FY into AST, where AST is the amount of reinforcement provided here. So this is a T, this is a C. How will you find out neutral axis depth? You will find out neutral axis depth by taking the equilibrium of compression and tensile force. Because for the body to be in equilibrium, compression force should be equal to tensile force. So XU by D, if you do that, 0.87 FY AST, 0.36 FCK. Instead of B in a rectangular section, here BF into D. So that is why the code says, for XU less than DF, the moment of resistance may be calculated from the given equation given in G1.1. G1.1 is this one, G1.1. So neutral axis depth will come from here, except that instead of B, you will put BF. Similarly, moment of resistance also, you will find out 0.87 Fy AST D into 1 minus AST Fy BF into D into FCK. Okay, that is the only change. So moment of resistance, this distance is, lever arm distance is D minus 0.42 XU between compression force and tensile force. This is same as rectangular beam. So therefore, moment of resistance equal to 0.87 Fy AST into D minus 0.40 XU. Or if you substitute for XU from this equation, you will get this equation, where 0.87 Fy AST D into 1 minus Fy into AST divided by FCK into BF into D. So this is for the first case. How to find out neutral axis depth? It is same as rectangular beam. Only thing that B is replaced with BF, because your compression zone has a width of BF. Similarly, moment of resistance also. I'll stop here now. If there is any doubt, you can ask.